just hours before he was supposed to step on stage. Yeison Jiménez boarded a short flight that was never meant to be a farewell. At 34 years old, at the peak of his career, and with a sold-out concert waiting, the Colombian singer's journey ended in a way no one saw coming, and what followed left an entire music community searching for answers, meaning, and perspective. This isn't just the story of a tragic accident. It's the story of momentum, responsibility, and how quickly a life built over decades can pause in a single moment. And the details behind what happened next reveal why Yeison Jiménez meant far more than just music to thousands of people. The flight was scheduled to be routine, according to publicly available information. The aircraft departed on Saturday afternoon, January 10th, from the region near Paipa, Colombia, heading toward Medellin. Yeison Jiménez was traveling alongside members of his team, preparing to perform later that same day. There was no indication, at least publicly, that anything was out of the ordinary shortly after takeoff. However, the plane crashed in an area between Paipa and Duitama. Authorities later confirmed that all 6 people on board lost their lives. The confirmation didn't come from rumors or speculation. It came from Colombia's Special Administrative Unit of Civil Aeronautics, which announced the incident through official channels. Within hours, the news spread far beyond aviation reports. Because this wasn't just any passenger. It was one of Colombia's most recognizable voices. But to understand why this loss resonated so deeply, you have to understand where Yeison Jiménez was in his life and how close he was to rewriting music history. Yeison Jiménez wasn't simply popular. He was in motion, known for blending traditional Mexican ranchera influences with Colombian roots. He became one of the defining artists of música popular, a genre built on storytelling, struggle, and emotional honesty. By 2024, his success had reached a level few artists ever touched. He sold out Bogotá's Movistar Arena 3 times in a single year, a milestone that placed him among the country's most commercially powerful performers. Then came 20-5. Jiménez sold out El Campus Stadium in Bogotá, becoming the first Colombian artist to achieve that feat, according to Billboard. For many fans, it wasn't just a concert, it was proof that a local sound, shaped by lived experience, could reach the largest stages. And on the day of the flight, he was still moving forward. Another performance, another city, another night of music, until everything stopped. What makes this moment even more difficult to process is what happened just minutes before the crash and why it later became part of the public conversation. According to reports, the plane involved was believed to be owned by YJ Company SAS, a firm associated with Jiménez's business operations. As the aircraft prepared for departure, Jiménez's photographer, Weissman Mora, shared a brief clip on Instagram stories. The video showed the view from inside the plane as it moved along the runway. At the time, it appeared completely ordinary. No alarms. No visible concern, just another transition between cities. Moments later, that routine image became something else entirely, a reminder of how unpredictable life can be, even during the most familiar routines. After the crash, emergency responders arrived at the scene and attempted to control the situation. According to media reports, authorities later confirmed that none of the passengers survived. The victims were identified as Yeison Jiménez, Jefferson Osorio, Juan Manuel, Oscar Marin, Weissman Mora, and Captain Fernando Torres. 6 lives. 1 flight. An immeasurable impact. But the most powerful part of this story isn't found in the accident itself. It's found in how people responded after Yeison Jiménez was gone. Shortly after the news became public, a representative for Jiménez shared an official statement on social media. The message avoided spectacle. It focused on meaning. The statement described him not only as an artist, but as a son, a brother, a friend, a human being full of dreams and courage who transformed his life story into a source of hope for thousands. That phrase, source of hope, appeared again and again in how fans described him, because for many listeners, Jiménez represented upward movement, someone who came from modest beginnings and built something real through persistence, discipline, and emotional honesty. And that's why this moment felt different. It wasn't just the loss of a performer. It was the interruption of a story people saw themselves in. As tributes continued to pour in, attention slowly shifted to another unavoidable part of the story, understanding what happened. According to official information, Colombia's Technical Directorate for Accident Investigation opened an inquiry into the crash shortly after it occurred. This process, standard in aviation incidents, focuses on gathering data, reviewing aircraft conditions, and reconstructing the sequence of events leading up to the accident. At this stage, authorities have not publicly confirmed a cause, and that uncertainty matters, not because people are searching for someone to blame, but because moments like this raise broader questions about safety, decision-making, and how complex systems can fail even when everything appears normal. Investigations like these can take time. They involve technical analysis, documentation, and careful review. Until conclusions are released, officials have urged the public to rely only on verified information. Still, the silence leaves space for reflection. And while investigators work behind the scenes, the impact of this loss continues to unfold, especially for the people who knew Yeison Jiménez, not as a headline, but as a husband and father. Yeison Jiménez is survived by his wife and 3 children. That single sentence, repeated in many reports, carries a weight that statistics and career milestones never can. Behind the sold-out arenas and national recognition was a man balancing professional ambition with family life, something he occasionally referenced in interviews and public appearances. For fans, it's a sobering reminder that public figures live multiple lives at once, one on stage and one away from the spotlight. And when tragedy strikes, it affects every layer. Friends, collaborators, and fellow artists described Jiménez as driven but grounded, someone who remembered where he came from and felt a responsibility to give back through his music. That sense of responsibility is part of why his passing resonated so strongly across Colombia and beyond. But perhaps the most lasting part of Yeison Jiménez's story isn't how it ended. It's what he changed while he was here. Música popular has always been about lived experience. Long before streaming numbers and stadium tours, it was a genre built on storytelling, songs about struggle, perseverance, loss, and hope. Yeison Jiménez didn't just perform within that tradition, he modernized it. By blending regional influences and contemporary production, he introduced the genre to new audiences while staying true to its emotional core. For younger listeners, he made traditional sounds feel current. For older fans, he preserved authenticity. That balance is rare, and it's why his success wasn't seen as accidental, but earned. Even after his passing, his music continues to circulate, not as background noise, but as emotional reference points for people navigating their own challenges. In that sense, the phrase used in the official statement feels accurate. He became a source of hope not because he avoided hardship, but because he openly acknowledged it. Still, there's one more layer to this story that often gets overlooked. The moment Yeison Jiménez was standing in, right before everything changed. At 34, Jiménez was not looking back on a finished journey. He was actively building. Industry observers noted that selling out El Campín Stadium positioned him for an entirely new phase of his career, one with greater international visibility and long-term influence. There were plans, there was momentum. There was time. Which makes this story resonate beyond music. It highlights how quickly circumstances can shift, even when life appears stable, successful, and carefully planned, not as a warning, but as perspective. So what remains when the noise fades and the headlines move on? What remains is understanding. Understanding that Yeison Jiménez's impact can't be measured only by ticket sales or chart positions, but by the way his story intersected with the lives of others. And understanding that tragedies like this don't ask for attention, they invite reflection. In the next part, we'll look at how moments like this reshape conversations around legacy, responsibility, and why remembering someone fully means looking beyond how their story ended. When news breaks suddenly, it often freezes people in the moment of loss. But over time, perspective changes. Yeison Jiménez's passing is not defined solely by the circumstances of a single afternoon. It's defined by years of work, resilience, and connection, by the voices that still sing his songs, and by the way his music continues to mirror real emotions for real people. According to public tributes and official statements, his influence extended far beyond entertainment. For many listeners, his lyrics reflected personal struggles and aspiration, offering reassurance that progress was possible even when the path felt uncertain. That's not something that disappears. Stories like this naturally lead to larger questions. How do we measure success? Is it the size of the stage or the depth of the connection? And what does it mean to leave something meaningful behind? Even when a journey ends earlier than expected, there are no simple answers. But moments like this remind us that legacy is rarely about a final event. It's about the consistency of impact over time, the quiet ways people influence others without ever fully seeing the results. Yeison Jiménez's career was still unfolding, but what he built remains visible in the music, in the community, and in the lives he touched. As investigations continue and official findings are eventually released, clarity will replace speculation. Until then, the focus remains on remembrance and respect. If there's one takeaway from this story, it's that understanding someone fully means seeing both the public milestones and the human story behind them, and that perspective doesn't end here. In the next video, we'll take a closer look at how modern Latin artists are reshaping traditional genres, and why Yeison Jiménez's approach continues to influence that movement. Even now, if you'd like to explore that conversation, it's waiting there.